Upgrade Your English podcast.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Upgrade Your English. It's fantastic to have you all here on the channel. I'm your host, Brianna, and if you're looking to really understand and speak English like a native, you are definitely in the right place. And as always, if you find this video helpful and you're enjoying our lessons, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support means the world and helps us reach more amazing learners like you. So today we're diving into a topic that might seem small, but it has a huge impact on your vocabulary and understanding of English: prefixes. Now, what exactly are prefixes? Think of them as little magical word starters. They are small groups of letters that we add to the beginning of a word, and guess what? They change the word's meaning. It's like adding a special ingredient to a recipe. Just a tiny addition can completely transform the taste, or in our case, the meaning of a word. Why are prefixes so important for your English? Well, if you understand the meaning of common prefixes, you can often guess the meaning of new words you've never seen before. This is a superpower for vocabulary building. Instead of memorizing thousands of individual words, you can learn a few prefixes and suddenly understand hundreds of words. It makes learning English so much more efficient and honestly, a lot more fun. We're going to explore some of the most common prefixes, explaining what they mean and how they change words, all with real-life examples and in a natural, flowing conversation. Let's jump right in with one of the most common and useful prefixes out there: un. The prefix un basically means not or the opposite of. It's like adding a no to the beginning of an idea. Think of a word like happy. If you add un to it, you get unhappy. Simple, right? Someone who is unhappy is not happy. Let's try it with a few more examples from everyday life. If something is fair, it means it's just and right. But if something is unfair, it means it's not fair. It's the opposite. For example, it's unfair that she got extra time for the test and I didn't. See how quickly the meaning changes? Another common one is lucky. If you're lucky, good things happen to you. If you're unlucky, well, the opposite is true. I was unlucky today. I lost my keys and missed my bus. This prefix un is incredibly versatile. You can use it with many adjectives to create their opposite. Think about kind and unkind, safe and unsafe, well and unwell. If you're feeling unwell, you're not feeling well, so you might need to stay home from work. It's super useful for quickly describing a negative state. Next up, let's look at re. This prefix means again or back. It's all about doing something a second time or returning to a previous state. The most classic example is do. If you redo something, you do it again. If you make a mistake on your homework, your teacher might ask you to redo it. Let's think about other situations. If you need to read a book but you didn't understand it, you might need to reread it. You read it again. If you're writing an email and you send it by mistake, you might need to resend it. Or if you buy something that's too big, you might need to return it to the store. You give it back. Think about words like rebuild, build again, rewrite, write again, restart, start again. Every time you see re, think again or back. It instantly tells you something is happening for a second time. Now let's explore dis. This prefix often means not, opposite of, or away. It's similar to un in some ways, but has its own distinct uses. Think of agree. If you disagree with someone, you do not agree with them. You have a different opinion. My brother and I often disagree on politics. It's a polite way to say you don't share the same view. Another great example is appear. If something disappears, it goes away or is not visible anymore. My keys always seem to disappear when I'm in a hurry. This prefix also works with feelings. If you like something, you like it. If you dislike it, you don't like it. I dislike waking up early on weekends. It's a softer way to say you don't like something than just I hate. Also think about honest and dishonest. A dishonest person is not honest. They might lie. Or connect and disconnect. When you disconnect from the internet, you break the connection. So, okay, let's move to pre. This prefix means before. It's all about something happening earlier in time or position. The most common one is view. If you preview something, you view it before everyone else. A movie trailer is a preview of the full movie. You see it beforehand. Think about other words. If you have to pay for something but you pay before you get it, you prepay for it. For example, I prepaid for my flight ticket last month. Or if you cook something before you eat it, you pre-cook it. Many meals you buy at the supermarket are pre-cooked. They're cooked partially or completely in advance. Another good one is predict. When you predict something, you say what will happen before it happens. Weather forecasters predict the weather. So when you see pre, think before. And finally, for this part, let's look at miss. Miss means wrongly or badly. It's about doing something incorrectly. The classic example is understand. If you misunderstand something, you understand it wrongly. I misunderstood the instructions, so I did the exercise incorrectly. It's a very polite way to say you made a mistake because you didn't understand. Let's try a few more. If you hear something, but you hear it wrongly, you mishear it. I misheard what she said, so I went to the wrong address. Or if you spell a word wrongly, you misspell it. Even native speakers misspell words sometimes. If you lead someone wrongly, you mislead them. A dishonest person might mislead you with false information. So miss is all about errors or doing something incorrectly. We've covered some really powerful prefixes already: un, re, dis, pre, and miss. Just by understanding these 5, you can unlock the meaning of so many new words in English. This is truly a superpower for learning English. Okay, that's all we have time for in this segment. Let's take a quick break, and after that, we'll dive into some more prefixes that will further expand your vocabulary and help you sound even more natural. We talked all about prefixes that change the meaning of words, like un and re. Today, we're going to dive into some more prefixes that are all about location, direction, and working together. These are great for adding more detail to your conversations. First up, let's talk about sub. The prefix sub means under or below. Think of it like a submarine. A submarine is a boat that travels under the water. See how simple that is? The meaning is right there in the prefix. We use this all the time. If you're in a city, you might take the subway. That's a train that goes under the ground. Or if you need to divide a big group of people into smaller groups, you might create subgroups. These are groups that are under or part of the larger main group. Even a subheading in a document is a heading that is below the main title. This prefix is incredibly useful for talking about things that are physically or logically below something else. Now, let's go in the opposite direction with super. This prefix means above, beyond, or more than usual. It's all about being bigger, better, or on top of something. A great example is a supermarket. It's a supermarket, meaning it's a very big market with many products. We also use this prefix to describe people. A superstar is a person who is above or beyond a normal star. Someone who is famous and highly skilled. Think of a superhero, a person with superpowers or a superpower. If something is a superhighway, it's a highway that is above or better than a normal road because it's faster and bigger. This prefix is fantastic for adding emphasis and showing that something is superior or extraordinary. Now let's talk about inter. This prefix means between or among. It's about connecting or relating to or more things. The most common example is probably international. When we talk about an international company, we mean a company that operates between or among different nations. Think about a conversation. When two or more people talk to each other, it's called an interaction. You are acting between people. A famous basketball team might have an interstate game, which means they play a game between different states. This prefix is all about connection. Now, let's look at trans. This prefix means across or through. It's about movement from one place to another. A great example is transport. A bus or a train transports you. It takes you across or through a city or country. We also use it for information. When you transmit a signal, you send it across a distance. For example, a radio tower transmits radio signals. Or when a business is a transnational company, it means it operates across many nations. It's similar to international, but it has a stronger sense of movement across borders. And finally, for this segment, let's look at co. This is a great prefix for talking about teamwork and cooperation. It means together or with. Think about a pilot on a plane. The person who works with them is the co-pilot. A co-worker is a person you work with. You share tasks and goals. If you have a friend who is the author of a book with you, they are your co-author. This prefix is so simple but so powerful. It makes it easy to talk about shared roles. It's a very positive and common prefix. So, we've covered some really powerful prefixes today. Sub, super, inter, trans, and co. Just by understanding these 5, you can unlock the meaning of so many new words in English, especially words related to place and cooperation. Let's keep moving forward on our journey to mastering prefixes. In the last segment, we talked about prefixes related to location, like sub and super. Now we're going to dive into some more prefixes that are all about opposites and negation. These can be a bit tricky because they all have a similar meaning, but once you understand them, you'll be able to unlock the meaning of so many words. First up, let's talk about im. This prefix means not or opposite of, and we often use it before words that start with the letter M or P. Think of a word like possible. If something is impossible, it is not possible. For example, it's impossible to travel to the moon without a spaceship. See? The meaning is right there. Another great example is patient. If you are impatient, you are not patient. My friend is very impatient. She hates waiting for anything. So when you see a word starting with M before an M or P, it probably means not. Now, let's look at in. This prefix also means not or opposite of. We use this one with words that start with other letters. Think of complete. If you don't finish your homework, it is incomplete. It is not complete. Another great example is dependent. If you are independent, you are not dependent on anyone else. You can do things by yourself. This prefix is very common. Think of words like visible and invisible, correct and incorrect, or sane and insane. It's a very simple and useful way to make a word mean the opposite. Next, we have IL. This one is simple to remember because it's only used with words that start with the letter L. The prefix IL means not or opposite of. A great example is legal. If something is illegal, it is not legal. It's against the law. It is illegal to drive a car without a license. See how easy that is? Another great example is logical. If something is illogical, it is not logical. It doesn't make sense. Her argument was illogical, so no one agreed with her. So when you see a word starting with an L and the prefix IL, you know it's the opposite. Let's move on to IR. This prefix is only used with words that start with the letter R. It also means not or opposite of. The most common example is responsible. If you are irresponsible, you are not responsible. You don't do what you're supposed to do. My brother is irresponsible with money. He spends it all right away. Another great example is relevant. If something is irrelevant, it is not relevant. It has no connection to the topic. The comment she made was irrelevant to our discussion. So when you see a word starting with an R and the prefix IR, you know it's the opposite. Now let's look at anti. This prefix is a bit different because it means against or opposed to. It's not just not, it's actively against something. A great example is social. If you are antisocial, you are against or opposed to being social. My cat is a bit antisocial. She doesn't like new people. Another great example is aging. People buy anti-aging creams that work against the signs of aging. This prefix is very common in science and politics, where it's used to describe opposition. Think of anti-war or anti-government. And finally, for this segment, we have non. This prefix means not and is often used to create a new word from a noun or adjective. It's a very common and simple prefix. A great example is profit. A non-profit organization is not for profit. It doesn't make money for its owners. A church or a charity is a non-profit organization. Another example is non-stop. If a bus goes non-stop, it is not stopping at every stop. It goes straight to the final destination. So non is a great way to say not in a very direct way. So in this segment, we've learned a lot of new prefixes that express a negative or opposite meaning. We have in, il, ir, anti, and non. These prefixes are so useful for understanding new words, especially when you are reading. Okay, that's all for this segment. In the next part, we'll dive into some more prefixes that will help you describe size, quantity, and position. Let's keep the momentum going on our journey to mastering prefixes. In the last segment, we talked about prefixes that express a negative meaning, like in and dis. Now, we're going to dive into some really useful prefixes that are all about numbers and position. These are very common and will help you describe things with much more detail. First up, let's talk about by. This prefix means two. It's super simple. A great example is a bicycle. Why is it called a bicycle? Because a bike has two wheels. The by tells you the number. We use this prefix all the time to describe people, too. If someone speaks two languages, we say they are bilingual. My friend is bilingual in English and Spanish. Or if a plane has two engines, we say it's a bi-engine plane. This prefix is a great way to talk about things that come in pairs. Now, let's talk about try. You can probably guess what this one means. The prefix try means 3. A great example is a tricycle. A tricycle is a bike with 3 wheels, perfect for kids. Another example is a triangle. A triangle is a shape that has 3 sides. The prefix try is a great way to describe things that are grouped in 3. Next, let's look at multi. This prefix means many. It's a very common prefix and is a great way to talk about a lot of something. A great example is multitask. When you multitask, you are doing many tasks at the same time. I'm a bit of a multitasker. I can listen to a podcast while I do my work. We also use this prefix for companies. A multinational company is a company that operates in many nations. Or, if something is multicolored, it has many colors. This prefix is a great way to say many in a more formal way. Now, let's go in the opposite direction with mono. This prefix means one. You might wonder, what's the difference between mono and uni? Well, they are very similar, but they are used with different words. A great example is a unicycle. It's a bike with only 1 wheel. Another example is a uniform. A uniform is a set of clothes that everyone wears at school or at work. It's a single, unified look. The uni tells you that it is all one kind. This prefix is great for talking about things that are single or unified. And finally, for this part, let's look at uni. This prefix also means one. You might wonder, what's the difference between mono and uni? Well, they are very similar, but they are used with different words. A great example is a unicycle. It's a bike with only 1 wheel. Another example is a uniform. A uniform is a set of clothes that everyone wears at school or at work. It's a single, unified look. The uni tells you that it is all one kind. This prefix is great for talking about things that are single or unified. So we have bi for 2, tri for 3, multi for many, and mono and uni for 1. These prefixes are so useful for understanding new words, especially when you are reading. All right, let's keep going. We've already covered prefixes that express numbers, like bi and multi. Now we're going to dive into some really useful prefixes that are all about time, relationships, and scale. These are great for adding more detail to your conversations. First up, let's talk about ex. This prefix means former or previous. It's very common when talking about relationships or past jobs. A great example is an ex-boyfriend. He is your previous boyfriend. The ex tells you that the relationship is over. We also use this prefix for jobs. An ex-president is a former president, or an ex-employee is a former employee. This prefix is a very simple and useful way to talk about something that is no longer true or has ended. Now, let's look at pro. This prefix is the opposite of anti, which we learned about in a previous segment. Pro means for or in favor of. A great example is pro-democracy. If someone is pro-democracy, they are in favor of democracy. You can use this to describe your feelings about something. If you are pro-union, you are in favor of unions. Or if a business is pro-customer, it is in favor of the customer. This prefix is a great way to talk about your beliefs or what you support. Next, let's explore for. This prefix means before or in front of. It's all about something that happens earlier in time or position. The most common example is a forecast. A weather forecast tells you what the weather will be like before it happens. Think about other words. Your forehead is the part of your face that is in front of your head. Or to foresee something is to see it before it happens. This prefix is fantastic for talking about things that are in a forward position or happen in advance. Now, let's talk about post. This prefix means after. It's the opposite of pre, which means before. A great example is post-war. The post-war period is the period after a war. We also use this prefix for time. If you postpone something, you put it off until after the planned time. We had to postpone the meeting until next week. This prefix is perfect for talking about things that happen later. And finally, for this segment, let's look at a pair of prefixes that are all about scale: micro and macro. First, micro means small. A great example is a microscope. A microscope is a tool that allows you to see things that are too small to see with your eyes. Another great example is a microwave. A microwave oven uses small waves to cook food. Think about microbiology, the study of very small living things. This prefix is great for talking about something that is tiny. Now let's look at macro. This prefix means large or long. It's the opposite of micro. A great example is macroeconomics. This is the study of large-scale economic issues. It's the opposite of microeconomics, which studies small-scale issues. Another example is a macroscopic view. This is a view of something from a large or overall perspective. This prefix is perfect for talking about something that is big or large scale. So, in this segment, we have ex for previous, pro for in favor of, for before, post for after, micro for small, and macro for large. We're going to dive into some really useful prefixes that are all about direction and action. These are very common and will help you describe things with much more detail. First up, let's talk about D. This prefix can mean down, away from, or the opposite of. It's a bit like un or dis, but with a specific sense of removal or decrease. A great example is decline. When something declines, it is going down. For example, the number of people visiting the park has declined recently. It's a very common word to describe a trend. Another great example is decrease. This means to go down in value or size. The price of gas decreased this week. It's a very useful word in everyday conversation. And to devalue something is to take away its value. This prefix is all about a sense of going down or away. Now let's look at over. This prefix means above, too much, or excessively. It's a great way to talk about doing something to a great degree. A great example is overload. When you overload your car with too many bags, you put too much in it. We use this prefix all the time to describe people too. If you are overworked, you are working too much. My friend is so overworked, she's been working for 10 hours straight. Another great example is overcharge. If you get overcharged at a store, the store charges you too much money. This prefix is a great way to say too much in a very direct way. Next, let's talk about under. This prefix is the opposite of over. It means below or not enough. A great example is underpaid. If you're underpaid, you're being paid not enough money for your work. He is very skilled, but he is underpaid at his job. We also use this prefix to describe situations. If you underestimate something, you think it is below its real value. I underestimated how long it would take to finish this project. It's a very common prefix to talk about a lack of something. Now let's explore out. This prefix means outward, away from, or to surpass. It's all about doing something better than others or doing something externally. The most common example is outgoing. An outgoing person is someone who goes out to be with people. They are very social. Another great example is outperform. To outperform someone is to perform better than them. Our team outperformed the other team in the game. Or to outline something is to give the main points outside of the details. This prefix is fantastic for talking about external actions or being superior. And finally, for this segment, let's look at up. This prefix means upward or above. It's all about a sense of upward movement or positivity. A great example is upgrade. When you upgrade something, you make it better. My friend just upgraded his phone. We also use this prefix to describe feelings. If you are upbeat, you are feeling positive. She is very upbeat today. She's so happy. Another great example is uphold. To uphold a law is to support it and make sure it is followed. This prefix is great for talking about things that are better or are supported. Okay, that's all for this segment. In the next part, we'll review all the prefixes we've learned and talk about how you can practice them to make them a part of your daily conversations. Let's get into the final part of our show. We've talked about so many amazing prefixes today. We've covered everything from negation to numbers and from direction to position. But before we finish, I want to take a moment to talk about the most important part of this whole episode, practice and mindset. We learned so many cool prefixes, from un and dis for opposites to bi and multi for numbers. We talked about how sub means below, like in subway, and how super means above, like in superstar. We even learned how D means down, like in decline, and how over means too much, like in overworked. But just listening to these prefixes once is not enough. The key to making them a part of your English is to use them and to not be afraid of making mistakes. Learning prefixes is like learning a code. You can watch a million videos about it, but you won't actually learn until you try it out for yourself. And you will fall. That's a normal part of the process. I remember when I was learning Spanish, I tried to use a prefix in a conversation and I said it completely wrong. My friends laughed, but they were so kind about it. They corrected me and taught me the right way. It was a little embarrassing, but I learned from my mistake and I never forgot that prefix again. So don't worry about being perfect. The goal is to communicate, to connect with people. And making a mistake is just part of the journey. So how can you practice? Here's a simple challenge for you. Choose just one or two prefixes from today's episode that you really like. Maybe it's un, or maybe it's re. Then, this week, every time you see a new word, look for a prefix you recognize. It will help you guess the meaning of the word. For example, if you see the word reconstruct, you know it means to construct again. You don't have to know the word, just the prefix. The more you use this method, the more natural it will feel. Another thing you can do is to start a small notebook just for prefixes. When you hear a new word with a prefix in a movie, in a song, or on this podcast, write it down. Write the prefix, its meaning in simple words, and then an example sentence of your own. When you write something, it sticks in your memory better. And you can always look back on your notebook. Look back on means to think about something in the past. It's a great way to remember how far you've come. And speaking of movies, that's another fantastic way to learn. When you watch a movie or a TV show in English, listen for the prefixes. You'll be surprised how often they come up. When you hear one you know, maybe from this episode, you'll feel so proud. It's an amazing feeling when you can pick up on a new phrase that a native speaker uses. Pick up on means to notice something or to learn something easily. You'll start to pick up on more and more prefixes the more you listen. So remember, the journey to fluency is a marathon, not a sprint. Don't give up, just keep on practicing. Focus on 1 or 2 prefixes at a time, and you'll be amazed at how quickly they start to become a natural part of your vocabulary. The more you use these prefixes, the more comfortable and confident you'll feel in any conversation. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining me on Upgrade Your English. It's always so much fun to talk to you all about English. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow. I'm Brianna, and I'll see you in the next episode.